Modern Horizons 2 spoilers are continuing and we're getting into the white cards now. There's been a suspicious absence of them, and at time of recording we're like in one of the main days for the white limited archetype and more white cards to come. So there will probably be another follow-up video to this, but I want to get some of these out of the gate now. So let's start with probably the less exciting of the exciting ones. This is Serra's Emissary, a big fat 7 mana 7/7 flying. When it enters the battlefield, choose a card type. You control have protection from chosen card type. Now this isn't all that exciting because it's 7 mana, and people are probably thinking, well, will that really see play in Legacy or Modern? But what I really want to point out here and really highlight is that there is a move towards non-legendary reanimator in this set. There are cards that entomb and then reanimate non-legendary creatures in this set. So that might mean a modern archetype of reanimator might lean towards non-legendary creatures. In that case, Serra's Emissary is... It's not Iona. Iona obviously turning off an entire colour is far more powerful than this, but you can give it and creatures you control and you protections from instants and or sorceries, right? I say and or, instants or sorceries, it's not both. So putting this into play and naming instant means they can't path it. It means they can't kill your other creature. They can't bolt you as well if they're playing burn and their primary win con is to, bolt you, right? So I think this card has an Iona-esque slot potentially in a non-legendary reanimator deck. And the other cool thing is that if you reanimate 2 of these, you can put them on instant and sorcery or creature and instant. But that's kind of magical Christmas land. Putting one of these into play early, often on Burial Rites or some of the new cards from Modern Horizons 2, will be pretty strong. Next up, we've got a card that's so fresh off the press, it's being tweeted at me by a couple of people, and I've only got a low-res version of it. This is Caldra Complete. Technically, well, I say technically, literally, this is not a white card. This is a 7 mana legendary artifact equipment with living weapon and indestructible, and the creature that you put into play is also indestructible. Let's talk about its stats. So it gives the creature it's attached to, including the germ that it generates with living weapon, +5/+5, first strike, trample, indestructible, haste, and whenever this creature does combat damage to a creature, exile that creature. Now what this is doing is it's piling in all the Caldra abilities of the Caldra equipment, but into a Fraxion, warped version of it. The reason it's in the white spoiler video today is because Stoneforge Mystic can fetch it up and it can cheat into play for 2 mana. So you can get a 2 mana 5/5 indestructible, trample, first strike, hasting, exiling creature, monster in play. Now, the obvious comparison is between this and a Batterskull. Batterskull being the most expensive equipment that is often chewed up with Stoneforge Mystic and put into play in Commander and Legacy anyway. The thing is, this is not Batterskull. This is actually significantly worse than Batterskull in most situations. Batterskull is 2 mana less, so when you tutor it up with Stoneforge Mystic and they kill your Stoneforge Mystic, which happens a good portion of the time, and trust me, I've done this quite a bit in my time, you get to cast Batterskull later down the line for 5 mana. And 5 mana is a lot in the mono white versions of D&T, and it's doable in the green-white versions. 7 is a big margin from there. When you're firing off Wastelands and Ghost Quarters in Modern and Legacy, you're going to struggle to get to 7 mana. So there's that. Next up, 7 mana equip cost. It's the same logic. Putting a Batterskull on a Flicker Wisp for 5 mana and swinging for the win is doable. 7 mana makes it way less doable. Next up is the absence of lifelink and vigilance in its like word soup, questing beast-esque allotment of words. Batterskull allows you to race people. So if they've got a Delver on their side of the board, you can slam in with Skull or something equipped with Skull and smash face and change the race around. A Wisp carrying a Batterskull is a 7-point life swing, a 14-point life swing. You gain 7, they lose 7. Easy way to race a Delver. This thing will not race 2 Delvers. Hell, it won't race a burn deck just slinging spells at your face, where Batterskull is a huge problem for that. And then lastly, Batterskull protects itself. It can bounce itself back to hand for 3 mana. So on its own, with an abundance of mana in a grind or a board stall, you can put Batterskull back in hand and redeploy it the following turn with Stoneforge Mystic or off the 5 mana. You can also, in response to them trying to kill it, you can activate Stoneforge Mystic, hold priority, bounce Batterskull back to hand, resolve the bounce, then resolve the Stoneforge Mystic trigger, putting the Batterskull back into play. You can't do this with Caldra Complete. Now, the obvious thing is that you can flicker this with a Flicker Wisp and reset it and get the body back, so it's got some utility, some use in D&T potentially. And I mean, what will happen is I will die with this in hand, say it's garbage, and I know I'll lose some mirror matches online, or playing other decks into D&T, lose against this where someone's, got lucky with it. It's going to happen. But I can say quite confidently, I almost say guarantee, but I can say quite confidently, this is not good. especially in the Batterskull slot. Now, there might be other decks that want it. Tron might want it, bearing in mind it's 7 mana, which is Tron mana. Khan the Great Creator can grab this from the sideboard if you really need an aggressive threat against another deck. It's a faster clock than Batterskull in terms of lowering your opponent's life total, but only by 1 point, so I don't think that's relevant. And maybe if the quick cost was reduced to 0, with like a pure Steel Paladin in the Hammer deck, maybe there. But ultimately, this is not Batterskull. It's exciting, it's cool, it's interesting, but it's not as good as Batterskull. Next up, we have another Wrath of sorts, a 3-mana enchantment that ETBs, it phases everything out. You put time counters onto it equal to the number of creatures phased out this way, and then it vanishes, which means you take a time counter off it each turn. Eventually, when all the counters come off it, it vanishes, and all the creatures phase back in. Super interesting. I can see it being quite annoying in Commander. I can see a lot of people getting frustrated as all the creatures are... When you wrath someone, they get to play with their graveyard. I would love to play with my graveyard with decks like Muldrotha and Carador and Merrin. Let's put a stop to that. So really, this is kind of like a cheap wrath with some variant of Rip built into it, although it can be blown up, obviously. I like this a lot for Commander, primarily. Maybe in Modern... Maybe it is a 3-mana wrath, to be fair. So that's not terrible. This actually might see some play. Maybe I'm being down on this thinking it's just a Commander card. In reality, a 3-mana wrath that buys the opponent 2 or 3 or 4 turns is pretty strong. So we'll definitely see it in Q, we'll definitely see it in Commander, and it could see some 60-card constructed play too. Then we have the white copy of the pitch cycle from this set. Honestly, I love this. A 5-mana 3/2 with Flash and Lifelink, and then when it ETBs, it plowshares a creature. Choose up to 1 target creature. It doesn't have to plowshare anything if you don't want it to, so it doesn't even have to randomly kill itself. It's up to 1. And you can evoke it. Alternate cost is you play it, it sacks itself by exiling a white card from your hand. This is a 3/2. That deals with Ember, for example. This is because Ember has protection from spells, and this is not a spell once it's entered the battlefield, it's a permanent. It's a 3/2 you can fetch with Recruiter of the Guard because its toughness is 2. So if they cast Show and Tell, put an Ember and you put Recruiter in, you go grab this, you pitch a card, and you kill Ember. Now, honestly, that's the most common thing we've been talking about with this. Honestly, in that matchup, it's not very good for D&T and Legacy, because in Legacy, you lose the matches where they go Show and Tell into Omniscience and they combo off at instant speed with spells, because you've got a Canonist or a Flicker Wisp or whatever. So I don't think it's shoring up any problems the deck has, but as a one-off, as a top-end 5-mana, not taxed by Thalia, can't be force of negated threat, that can be free. Hell, you can evoke this by exiling a white card from your hand into play. You can activate your Aether Vial, put a Wisp in, flicker this out, plow their thing, comes back end of turn, plows another thing. Oh, the value chains against creature-based decks in Legacy are going to be off the charts. And honestly, in Modern, in the green-white version, I've always said you can play 1 5-drop. So... yeah, this could be that 5-drop. This card is very, very good. The other place that I saw... oh, I wanted to credit who said it, but I'm not sure where I read it. I don't want to say it, can I get it wrong? I saw someone talking about... oh no, it was J-Cloud. I'm pretty sure it was J-Cloud. Was saying this could be the removal spell that the Mono White Soldier Prison deck has been looking for. Because that wants cards that aren't plowshares, and this is plowshares, but on a body, that you can cast off your soul lands. This is very good. Probably not as good as the black one, but close. Very, very close. And they both go into the same Ephemerate deck if that's the thing that everyone starts doing in Modern. And we're not done. Sper Sentinel, a 1-mana 1/1 human soldier, so relevant creature types, and it's an artifact. Whenever an opponent casts their first non-creature spell each turn, draw a card unless that player pays X, where X is Sper Sentinel's power. So it's always going to be, well, most of the time going to be 1, right? Because it's a 1/1. Of course, if it's in the humans deck, it gets pumped. In the D&T decks, you can obviously put swords on it and stuff. Essentially, when they fire a removal spell like this, either makes the removal spell cost 2 like Thalia does, or you draw a card, which is great. That situation, when you're playing its fair decks and removal and you're drawing cards, is going to be gas. And honestly, the Modern version of D&T has struggled against fair decks in the past because you can't keep up the attrition war because your cards aren't as high quality. So something that actually trades for a removal spell and draws you a card is gas. The problem I have with Sper Sentinel is that on the turns where your opponent just wants to combo out, where they're just going to storm off, letting you draw a card doesn't do anything. So what... the problem is this is a choice, right? With Thalia, it is everything costs 1 more. With this, it's the first spell costs more, and if you're going off, if you're popping off in a way that will either like be back-breaking or just win you the game, you don't give a shit. So like, you're not going to pay the tax on through the breach that makes an Emrakul, right? You're not going to pay the tax on the first spell in your storm sequence. There's a lot of things where this just doesn't do anything. I'm going to try it. I'm probably going to try slamming 4 of it into Legacy or Modern D&T to start with, because it looks legit. And it might be legit in other decks too, in Humans, or the Hammer deck as well, the Hammer Time deck in Modern. It feels strong, but I'm scared that it's deceptively so, and it's going to end up just leading me down a garden path, and then I realise it's shit. I wish I didn't go down the garden path with it, and I'll be like, why am I on this garden path with you, Sper Sentinel, you fuck? And then lastly, this was actually very early on, but I didn't talk about it in a video or on Twitter or any shorts or anything. This is Prismatic Ending. It's 1 white and an X, sorcery speed, and it has Converge. X will target non-land permanent if its mana value is less than or equal to the number of colours of mana spent to cast this spell. So if you put 1 white into it, it is equal to or less than. So for 1 white, you can exile a Chalice of the Void, not on 1, because it'll get countered, but if you put 2 white mana into X and 1 and 1, X and 1, X equaling 1 plus the 1 white, you spent 2 mana, it's not a 2 CMC spell, but it's 1 colour, you can exile a Chalice of the Void. So that's the beginning of it. This can exile Delver of Secrets. This can exile Aether Vials. This is Isolate, which exists already, but a little bit better if you're in 2 or 3 colours. I think this card is going to be good. It does target, so it's not really going to be better than Council's Judgment in the multicolour white control decks in Legacy, who have Council's Judgment in their sideboard. It's a weird one. It feels very powerful, probably more powerful than a lot of people are thinking at first glance for an uncommon. I'm certainly going to try it. Obviously, it's not very good if you're going to make 1 type of mana, because then you might as well just be playing Isolate. Actually, the more I talk about it, is this just a worse Isolate? For the mono white decks it is, but for white green, or like Bant or Esper, this is one to try out, this is one to consider, this is one to keep in your back pocket. Bad against Gurmag and Delve Threats though. Okay, I came into this really certain this card was gas, and now I'm reading them like, is it just a shit Isolate? I guess only time will tell. I've been Vince, also as PleasantKenobi on the internet. This is my white roundup thus far. There'll be another green roundup later today and or tomorrow, and then maybe another video over the weekend as well, talking about anything in sport today that's exciting. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comment section below if I've missed something, misinterpreted something, if I'm overhyping something, underselling something, and let me know what cards you're excited to see in your decks, in your hands, on the battlefield when Modern Horizon 2 drops in like a week or 2. This set is fucking sick. I am super excited to play with some of these cards. Ta-ta for now.